Edwards. Today we're talking to Serge Dedina, mayor of Imperial Beach and co-founder of Wildcoast. Serge grew up in Imperial Beach, getting his start in conservation from the need to protect the bays, estuaries, and beaches of his hometown. Since then, he has passionately and boldly led conservation efforts in the most globally important coastlines and marine ecosystems on the planet. How are you? Good morning.
Good to be here.
So you were just explaining the significance of this spot. Can you tell us a little bit about this spot?
Yeah, we're in the South San Diego Bay Wildlife Refuge. It's one of the most important birding sites in all of the United States. There's thousands of birds here, and probably in the background you can hear elegant terns. We have over 20,000 elegant terns that arrive from the Gulf of California to spend time here. And so for months at a time, we hear this chattering of literally thousands of birds feeding here. And then every day in the morning, they fly over Imperial Beach and go to the ocean and feed in our marine protected area. But you can see these elegant terns all over San Diego. I've been out paddling in Mission Beach, surfing in La Jolla, and you see the elegant terns out feeding. So it's really amazing, and it's really an amazing area, and shows how powerful conservation is for making things really beautiful.
Yeah, because you said as a kid this was all full of trash, right?
Yeah, so when I was a kid, the south end of San Diego Bay was a garbage dump, pretty much. And, you know, parts of San Diego Bay today are still filled with concrete, just all kinds of junk, chain link fences, and there's been a real effort on the part of the Port of San Diego, the City of Imperial Beach, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the City of Chula Vista, San Diego, you name it, to really clean this area up. This wildlife refuge has really come back. This is a big restoration effort here, 400 acres of restoration. The minute it was completed, the birds started showing up. We even had a dolphin swim right in here. They had to get rescued by our City of Imperial Beach lifeguards and SeaWorld. So it's a really incredible area. But there's also been an effort to actually build trails here, making them more amenable to the local communities. And there's a bike trail here. So on the weekend, thousands of people come here to enjoy this area. So it's really kind of important to show that, we're not just losing nature, we can actually restore it and bring it back. And I think that's something really important for me.
There, a lot of people, like you said, love coming to nature, love to surf, but they don't have that passion to act. Why do you think you're so passionate to act on conservation?
Well, I grew up in Imperial Beach, and when I was a kid, all of the open space, so South San Diego Bay and then the Tijuana Estuary, and then even our beachfront were threatened with development. So literally, we arrived in Imperial Beach in 1971, and my parents gravitated towards the Tijuana Estuary, which is a state national wildlife refuge in a California protected area. But back then, it was slated for being turned into Marina del Rey with high-rise condominiums, a marina, and my parents and I were like, oh my God, that can't happen. So we joined a tiny group of people that were really interested in preserving it. And really, my whole childhood, up until my teenagehood, was spent fighting this battle. I got beat up over it. But we eventually won. It was interesting that Ronald Reagan was the one that helped make it a protected area, a federal protected area. So it just shows that conservation should be something that is nonpartisan. And today it's a thriving estuary, of course, impacted by the Tijuana River. But at the same time, in my teenage years, when I started surfing, the Surfrider Foundation got its first victory stopping a breakwater project that was slated for Imperial Beach, a mile of breakwater that would have destroyed all of the surf in Imperial Beach. Like literally, the Army Corps was headed to IB to dump rocks. And so when I was in college, they were talking about putting a marina here, and me and local activists and my wife, I got married by then, and we were really involved in helping make this a national wildlife refuge. My wife went to Washington to lobby for it, and everyone laughed at us. Said, why would this garbage dump, why would you want to save it? It should be a marina, we need economic development. The thing that I learned was, and back then it was always, we have to destroy nature. We can't afford to protect it. And my thing has always been, you can do both. You can save nature and do economic development. What's really been great in Imperial Beach and in other areas is that you can do economic development next to nature, and actually people want to see nature.
I just wanted to dive into the work of Wildcoast, because it seems 2021 was such a great year for Wildcoast. And tell us about the significance of mangroves and blue carbon farming, and is this considered blue carbon, this environment?
Yeah, so Wildcoast is the international conservation team that I helped co-found in 2000. Our mission is to conserve coastal and marine ecosystems and address climate change through natural solutions. And one of the things we've been working on is understanding the ecological importance in terms of climate change adaptation and mitigation for wetland ecosystems as well as mangrove ecosystems. So salt marshes and mangroves, even coral reefs and kelp forests. And what we've been learning is that these salt marshes and mangrove estuaries, mangrove lagoons, actually help sequester as much carbon as most ecosystems on the planet. Really important not only for helping us adapt to sea level rise, but also to sequester carbon that's in the atmosphere. At the same token, what we've learned is that when you destroy these areas, you release all the carbon that's stored in the soil here. So really important to save them. So Wildcoast got really involved. We've always been saving wetlands and mangrove lagoons in Mexico, but what we really doubled down on is really figuring out ways to restore these areas, enhance them, so we can enhance their capacity to adapt to sea level rise and climate change, as well as to sequester carbon and help us mitigate climate change. So it's been really, really exciting. And we're working in Mexico with fishing communities to actually grow mangroves, and that's been really exciting to do that. So we'll be expanding that program into Chiapas and Oaxaca. So we really look forward to a future in which Wildcoast is really involved in helping us address climate change, but doing it in a way that enhances natural ecosystems.
And you have that 1 million mangroves goal, right?
Yeah, so we have a Million Mangroves mission, and it's really designed to really, again, addressing this balance, making sure that you can save nature, but giving people jobs in the process. So working with low-income communities that are living really in really remote areas and rural areas, and a lot of women's groups as well that are trying to augment the incomes from their fishermen husbands. And there are women that fish as well. And so that's been really exciting and really moving to see people so inspired and passionate about saving what are really their backyard habitats. And blue carbon is really the carbon that's stored from these aquatic marine ecosystems. There's green carbon that you would find in forests. And of course, brown carbon that's released into the atmosphere when you have forest fires and other things. And so it's really important right now that we save and conserve literally every inch of natural ecosystems that we can, and then look at ways that enhance them. And one thing I'm just really passionate about is that it's not that complicated. And you know, we have our own backyard habitat here in San Diego, where I've been working since a kid, and you can see we planted 400 acres of wetlands, or restored 400 acres of wetlands, and immediately things got better. There's more fish habitat, there's more bird habitat, and it's actually more beautiful. So that's a really good blueprint, I think, for what we can do and how we can avoid these conflicts over conservation and development.
Yeah, amazing. And the olive ridley sea turtle in Mexico, I know that was also a great conservation effort that you did. Can you tell us, is it 72 million sea turtles saved?
Back in 2011, we started working in Oaxaca, in southern Oaxaca. Some of the beaches that surfers know and love really well in Oaxaca with perfect right point breaks, but they also happen, these beaches are very long sand beaches that happen to be some of the world's most important areas for nesting olive ridley sea turtles that at one point were really nearing extinction, very endangered. And the Mexican government, along with communities and Wildcoast, worked together to stop poaching on these areas and protect these beaches. And since then, 72 million turtles have been hatched. It's been amazing recovery. And beaches that, but only a few 100,000 turtles nesting a year. Now there's over 1 million, close to 2 million turtles nesting a year. Huge, huge success story. But it shows again that just a handful of people doing really smart things and protecting really key areas can have a huge impact on ecosystems and wildlife. So that's been really neat. But in addition to that, these beaches are beautiful. They have mangroves, there's coral reefs offshore. The ocean area off Oaxaca, the Isthmus of Tijuana, is one of the world's most important marine conservation areas. So super amazing to see all the abundance of wildlife there, partially because Oaxaca hasn't been impacted by industrial agriculture. There's not a lot of the chemicals that you would see. So all the amphibians that normally are disappearing worldwide, you see when it starts raining, frogs everywhere, there are iguanas, tons of birds, amazing birds, and then forests as far as the eye can see up into the mountains. So really globally important area, and the sea turtles sort of highlight how abundant and vibrant it is, but also the important role of indigenous communities and local communities in helping save nature.
Yeah. Can you tell us about the trash boom located on the Mexico and U.S. border? Has there been a lot of success with that?
Yeah, so along the San Diego-Tijuana portion of the U.S.-Mexico border, there's huge problems with sewage and toxic waste, as well as trash and waste tires that come across the border from Tijuana, especially when it rains. And so Wildcoast is part of a global initiative funded by the Benioff Ocean Initiative at UC Santa Barbara to build trash booms. Other ones were built in Panama, Kenya, India, and then here in Mexico, on the US-Mexico border. And so our team built one in what's called Los Laureles Canyon in Tijuana, which is right a couple miles from the beach, but right on the other side of Borderfield State Park. And so what happened was, it's a small, narrow canyon, and trash washes down when it rains, and then fills up this California State Park, and then ends up in the ocean. So you have tons of trash, dirt, and then the trash going to the ocean. It's great. It's like a tsunami of trash. It's unbelievable.
What has been your proudest conservation moment?
I've been involved in a lot of things over the last 30 years or so, but it's been really, really rewarding and inspiring to help. We've been involved in efforts to save Laguna San Ignacio, or San Ignacio Lagoon in central Baja California, for a long time, since I co-founded Wildcoast with Wallace J. Nichols back in 2000. And even before that, I did my PhD there. There was a big campaign by NRDC and others that I was involved with to help stop the Mitsubishi Corporation from building a big industrial salt works on the shore of what is one of the world's most pristine salt marsh coastal lagoons. There are gray whales go there, there are sea turtles. I mean, it's an amazing place. Sort of like this, but it's like on steroids, right? It's huge and pristine. And so we've been really involved in efforts to do work there for more than 20 years. And we've really seen the benefit to the ecosystem, but more importantly, local communities who have really benefited from ecotourism and sustainable fishing and other activities. We did things like get eco loans to fishermen and whale watching guides so they could switch out their polluting two-stroke engines to less polluting four-stroke engines. So all kinds of things, and now we're growing mangroves there and salt flats. So it's just been a real sort of like demonstration of how over time you can actually help make coastal ecosystems more resilient, but also do things that benefit local communities as well. And I think that's, again, the balance. And it's one of my favorite projects and things we've done, only because it just shows that small groups of people, when you support them and sort of like in these leadership roles and really through sort of environmental innovation, you can really make magic happen. And that's really, really great.
Yeah, amazing. And to go opposite of that question, have you had any moments that have made you want to give up or stop what you're doing?
I really love the work that I do. I really love conservation. And every time I go out in the field, whether it's today just being by this wetland or going on a surf trip to Oaxaca or Baja or just being inspired by gray whales, it just makes me realize how much I love nature and the environment. And more importantly, working with really amazing people to save nature. That's what really energizes me. The animals don't save themselves. Nature's great on its own. We have to help manage ourselves to make that happen. And so for me, the best part is just being around and being energized and inspired by really, really leaderful groups of people who have made the collective decisions to actually make a difference and save nature. And so that's the best part of what I do.
Amazing. Yeah, and so that gives me hope. And so I'm guessing that you have hope for a clean environment and a good future.
Yeah, at Wildcoast, we're relentless optimists and relentless in being positive and showing that it's important to give people hope by showing them concrete examples where things can make a difference.
Yeah.
And that's something we really specialize in and focus on is doing projects that have an immediate impact that you can show people, look, we did this, it had this outcome, you can do that too. And I think that's really important. For me, the more that people unite around the planet to protect all of their backyard habitats, the better off we're going to be.
We are so thankful for Serge and even more inspired to do our part. Serge mentioned it's amazing what a small group of people coming together can accomplish. With boldness and passion, the sea turtles, gray whales, coral reefs, mangroves, and clean oceans have a fighting chance. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.